Okay, you
Good
can
morning,
start,
everyone.
Cardozo.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today is the 9th of November, 2021. My name is Clifford Cardozo, and I will be the moderator for this Zoom class. Welcome to this Zoom class of International Honest-Hearted Truth Seekers of Yahshua the Messiah. This is a school and not a church. Neither are we affiliated with any religious organization. This school is a non-profit, non-denominational, religious, and scientific research organization dedicated to showing proof of the existence of Yahweh, our Elohim, and the operation of his eternal purpose, pattern, and plan, operating throughout eternity to this present day. This school was established as a result of a divine vision and divine revelation. Henry Clifford Kinley in the state of Ohio in the year 1931. Classes are held in the United States, Canada, the Bahamas, Jamaica, England, Ghana, Zambia, Malaysia, Australia, and certain other foreign countries. The host is Dr. Lenore Allen of Brooklyn, New York. In this school, we teach the true, correct, and original name and title of the as are contained in the original Hebrew text. The true name of the Heavenly Father is Yahweh.
Do you want me to pick it up? Clifford, you're muted.
I've got it. In this school, we teach the true, correct, and original name and title of the Father, the Word or Son, and the Holy Spirit, as are contained in the original Hebrew text. The true name of the Heavenly Father is Yahweh. Yahweh has been improperly substituted with the title Lord. The true title of the Word or Son is Elohim. Elohim has been improperly substituted with the title God. The name of the Holy Spirit manifested in or out of a physical body is Yahshua. Yahshua has been erroneously substituted with Jesus Christ. Lord and God are titles and not names. The Apostle Paul, filled with the Holy Spirit, tells us in 1 Corinthians 8:5 that there are Lords many and gods many. But we now know that each Lord must have a name, and each God must have a name also. Elohim is a title, but unlike Lord and God, Elohim is a divine title. That means that Elohim is a title that our Creator chose for himself. Jesus is a name, but it is an erroneous name. A minor investigation on your part in a good dictionary or encyclopedia would prove that neither the Hebrew language, the Greek language, nor the Latin language have used the sound that is made by this letter J. Neither was there a J in the English alphabet until some 1400 years after the Messiah's death. Therefore, such names as Jesus and Jehovah are impossible renderings of the true and original name of our Heavenly Father and his Son. Christ is a title just like Lord and God. Yahweh is pure spirit, and in his pure spirit state, he is incomprehensible, inscrutable, and indiscernible. He is the ultimate source, substance, limits, and bounds of everything. We have Yahweh in his pure spirit state symbolized on this Moses chart as a cloud. Yahweh is not a cloud. He merely chose a cloud to symbolize himself because a cloud has no particular or descriptive shape or form. We have drawn this cloud all around the edges of this chart to show you that everything on this chart abides within the cloud. In like manner, everything in the universe abides within the pure spirit state of Yahweh. Yahweh, knowing that man could not perceive of him in his pure spirit state, took on shape and took on form right within himself as Elohim. This is the Word or Son, a super incorporeal being that is having the shape and form of a man, but without flesh and blood. This form can only be seen in divine visions and understood in divine revelations. Later on, this self-same spirit manifested himself in a physical body and walked the earth plane as Yahshua the Messiah, whom the world calls Jesus Christ. Now there is only one name given unto salvation, and we must know that name. So the simple yet intelligent question that we should ask ourselves is, what was the name of the Savior during the time he walked the earth plane? A further understanding of this name, Yahshua, and title Elohim, may be had by reading the preface of the Holy Name Bible. Also, in this school, we teach by the divine pattern of the universe. It is called the divine pattern because it is Yahweh's pattern. After Yahweh led the children of Israel out of Egypt, he called Moses atop Mount Sinai and showed him the tabernacle pattern in a vision. Yahweh instructed Moses to build one exactly like it in the wilderness of Sinai. The pattern consists of a most holy place, a holy place, and a court round about. These three compartments make up the one tabernacle pattern. In this school, we show proof that everything in the universe is made and operates according to the structure and function of this divine threefold tabernacle pattern, and that absolutely nothing escapes the pattern. In this class, we teach the mission of Yahshua the Messiah, which was to fulfill the old covenant and to write the new covenant in our heart and mind by the preaching of the gospel. Now, the 10 primary constitutional aims and objectives are as follows. First, to help you find and know Yahweh our Elohim as he really is and actually exists. Second, to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood of humanity in Yahshua the Messiah without distinction of race or nationality, creed, sex, caste, or color. Third, to investigate the unexplained spirit law or so-called law of nature and the powers latent in men. Fourth, to encourage and promote the study of the scriptures, comparative religions, psychology, philosophy, and modern practical and occult science. Fifth, to extirpate current superstition, skepticism, and ignorance. Sixth, to learn, know, and understand the operation of Yahweh's eternal purpose through the dispensations and ages. Seventh, to discern and avoid being deceived by Lucifer, the serpent, the devil, the dragon, or Satan and his demons, operating the mystery of iniquity on earth through the dispensations of time. Eighth, to earnestly contend for the common salvation and faith which was once delivered unto the sons or children of Yahweh. 9, to make known that Yahweh from the beginning ordained there is no other name given among men whereby man must be saved, saving the name of Yahshua the Messiah. 10th, to inherit eternal life now in the kingdom of Yahshua the Messiah with a hope of immortal glorification in the new earth state. Our watchword is peace. Our slogan, speak the truth. Before I carry on, I would request that all participants be mindful of your microphones and your video cameras so as not to interrupt the speakers. We will now have class dedicated in prayer by Dr. Deborah Van Hook of Oakland, California. Our song will be by Dr. Jackie McCain. The scriptures lesson is Genesis, the 43rd chapter, and that will be read by Dr. Phyllis McCoy of Oakland, California. Our scripture readers are Dr. Deborah Hanna of Detroit, Michigan, and Dr. Jackie McCain of Chattanooga, Tennessee. May we now have our prayer.
Good morning, Heavenly Father Yahweh. We humbly thank
Dr.
you
Van Hook?
for your precious.
We can
Good
hear
morning.
you.
Okay. Good morning, Heavenly Father Yahweh. We thank you for your precious gift, the breath of life. We graciously thank you for keeping us and allowing us all to see a new day that you prepared in the realm of eternity. All these blessings we thank you for in the name of your Son, Yahshua the Messiah. May we all say hallelujah.
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 Gonna praise Yahshua.
Go ahead.
My
Dr.
eyes have seen the glory of the coming of Yahweh. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the faithful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. I have seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps. They have builded him an altar in the evening dews and damps. I can read his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamps. His day is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. He has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never sound retreat. He is swifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet. Yah is marching on. In the beauty of the lilies, Yah loves you and me with the glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. And he died to make men holy. Let us die to make men free while Yah is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Hallelujah, praise Yahshua.
Praise Yahshua.
Yahshua.
We have our scripture lesson, please.
Yes, I will be reading Genesis chapter 43 from the Holy Name Bible, containing the Holy Name version of the Old and New Testaments, critically compared with ancient authorities and various manuscripts, revised by the late A.B. Trainer of the Scripture Research Association, Incorporated. Genesis chapter 43. And the famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spake unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Israel said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me as to tell the man whether ye had a brother? And they said, the man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel, his father, and Judah said unto Israel, his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we have returned this second time. And their father Israel said unto them, if it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, pistachio nuts and almonds. And take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks. Carry it again in your hand. Peradventure, it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise, go again unto the man. And El Shaddai give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. And the men took that present, and they took double money in their hand and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time we brought in, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us and take us for bondmen and our asses. And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house and said, oh, sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass when we came to the end that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our own hand. No, we have brought it again in our hand. And other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. And he said, peace be to you, fear not, your El and the El of your father have given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money, and he brought Simeon out unto them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender, and they made ready the present Joseph against Joseph's coming at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare and said, is your father well, the old man of whom ye spake? Is he yet alive? And they answered, thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, is this your younger brother of whom ye spake unto me? And he said, Elohim be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph hurried, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother. And he sought where to weep. And he entered into his chamber and wept there. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, sat on bread. And they sat on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his birthright. And the men marveled one at another. And he took and set messes unto them from before him. But Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs. And they drank and were merry with him. I have read Genesis chapter 43. Praise Yahshua the Messiah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. I would like to I'd like to thank all participants and thank you very much for gathering this morning, this afternoon, this evening from all over the world. We are international, honest-hearted truth seekers in Yahshua the Messiah. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Lenore Allen. Dr. Allen?
Good morning, everyone. Glad everybody was able to gather together to praise our husband and father and to learn more of Yahshua the Messiah. I'll turn this over to Dr. Frank and Valerie Lewis of Springfield, Ohio. Good morning, Frank. Good morning, Valerie.
Good morning, brethren.
Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon and good night to some. Praise Yahshua Messiah. Today's Transcript Tuesday, but we did read Genesis, the 43rd chapter. It's a scripture lesson. So if anybody wants to bring things out, you can do that, but try to keep it short so we can get into the transcript. But it's up to you. And I mean, it's on you. And so if you all want to talk about some of the things in Genesis 43, we've been going through each chapter every day so that you can become familiar with the things that are in Genesis, and we've done it with Exodus and Deuteronomy and Joshua and Judges. So it's your time to bring something out if you'd like to do so. Genesis, the 43rd chapter.
This is Miss Robinson. I'm not going to try to bring anything out, but I want to try to understand if someone can help me to understand verse 16. Let me get back in my Bible. Verse 16.
And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of the house, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon.
Okay, when he said slay, was that to mean that to prepare some type of animal for them to eat? Mm-hmm. Do I have it right? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're going to eat something, so they're going to slay. You're going to Kill it and prepare it and cook it and eat, just like, you know.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I had the correct understanding of that. And the verse didn't mean that person might be slain. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Day family, glad to be here as always. Praise Yahshua for another feast, where we can grow in the knowledge and the wisdom that he's laid out so plainly here. For me, when this chapter was read, what stood out was, if the scripture reader can get Genesis 43 and 26 about bowing down. And we know, for those who are newer than us, that this teaching came as a result of a divine vision and revelation given to our founder, Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley, in the state of Ohio in the year 1931. And, he, the Holy Spirit in him, had all these charts. If Lenore, you can go to the chart, and we can go to the Moses chart first, or if you can find on the 40 plate chart, this event, where he made plain this vision for us to see on charts, and for us to use charts when we look at how Yahweh is giving us witnesses, which what this chapter is doing, is giving us a witness of Yahshua, Yahweh himself coming in, and how the world is to bow down to him before the end of this age. So if we can read that in Genesis 43:26.
Genesis 43:26. And when Joseph came home,
so when Joseph came home, Joseph is a type and shadow of Yahshua, okay? And as we read earlier, and for those who didn't, can always go back into the earlier chapters, talks about Joseph being given a vision. He experiences a vision, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, where he brings it to his father, Israel, which is Jacob. His name was changed to Israel, which is having power with El. And in the vision, when he shared it to his family, they didn't accept it. They didn't think, that they would have ever bowed down to him. Okay. He was not the firstborn, for example, and I think he was like the 11th, I'm not sure, but nevertheless, he was a child to them, right? He was the one that didn't, as is said in all the scriptures about who taught someone, who was he in school? Was he at the best schools, whatever? No, Joseph wasn't like that. But continue reading, please.
And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house and bowed themselves to him to the earth.
Now, this is his brothers, the same one that wanted to see him dead, right? And here, if we miss that point, Moses is showing us again, because Moses is the author of Genesis. And here we see in 43 and 28, if we miss that point that his brothers bowed down, let's read 43 and 28, please.
28, and they answered, thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads.
They bowed down their heads. Moses is showing us again, this is all testifying and witnessing to the Messiah coming in, and the world, or those that lie, as we've been taught, how these lies, these doctrines, is teaching lies against them. They're going to bow. Every knee is going to bow. Keep reading, please.
And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, is this your younger brother, of whom he spake unto me? And he said, Yahweh be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn.
That's fine. Lenore, I want to make this quick, as Frank suggested. Get the dispensation chart so we see where we are in Yahweh's timetable. So here again, as I said, it's showing that all kings will bow. Someone get Psalms 72 and 1, please. And the other scripture reading, get Isaiah 49:7. Because everyone, every nation, every king, anyone in any high place, everybody is going to bow down to Yahshua. There's just no question about it. If you pay attention today, as a result of this vision, people are using the name a little bit more comfortably, even though they don't know it. I've been seeing people putting spins on it, but it's important to stay with what Dr. Kinley gave us, because he says, learn all you can, because we're going to need it. Okay, read Psalm 72:1, please.
Psalm 72:1. Give the king thy judgments, O Elohim, and thy righteousness unto the king's son. He shall judge thy people with righteousness, and thy poor with judgment. The mountains shall bring peace to the people, and the little hills by righteousness.
Go to 72:9, please.
72:9. They that dwell in the wilderness shall bow before him,
Right,
and his enemies shall lick the dust.
right. And that's witnessing to what's happening now. There are a lot of dry lands in this place that surround us, because they still, are not moved to accept Yahshua as being the one that came in flesh, came in the form of a man, took on flesh and blood, and his blood was sacrificed to pay the price for our sin. And so what happens, and we're not to be astonished or upset or, going crazy about it, is seeing all these quakes, all this dust, right, that these folks are eating. Because if you ever seen the forest fires in California, they're eating dust. What happens with those fires? It brings about a cloud of dust and flames, you see, that's consuming what they held on to so preciously, because property out there is really expensive. So people are sacrificing a lot just to have a spot out there, and Yahweh is just licking it up, right? Let's go to, I want to go to, did we go to Isaiah 49:7 yet? The other scripture, could we get that?
Isaiah 49:7.
Mhm.
Thus saith Yahweh, the Redeemer of Israel, and his
Yahweh
holy
is the Redeemer of Israel, having power with El. He's our Redeemer, because through the Holy Spirit gives us power, makes us a part of his body. Read, please.
the Holy One, to him whom man despises, to him whom the nation abhorreth, to a servant of rulers, kings shall see his arise, princes also shall worship, because Yahweh, that is faithful and the Holy One of Israel, and he shall choose thee.
Okay, and go to Matthew 2:11. I'll wrap up with this, because again, it's pointing to the Messiah. We know it's important that we know that we've been taught Isaiah in 20, and we talked about precepts, but to go begin with Moses and all the prophets, and pull what Yahshua shows you in a chapter, pull where it is in the law, where it is in the prophets, where it is in the fulfillment, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and in the spiritual fulfillment, that has been shared with us, since we've been here. So if we could read the fact that this is all pointing to Yahshua coming in flesh and blood to save us, Matthew 2:11.
Matthew 2:11. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Miriam, his mother, and fell down and worshiped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh.
Okay, that's enough. So here, these are people of royalty. These are men bowing down, and it's showing us a top and shadow how, they are gonna, before this age, if we go to dispensation ages chart, please, before this age closes, that they, Dr. Kinley even showed us, one of the mightiest of all, which is the Pope, bowing down, taking off that tiara, that identified, and and again, he didn't know. The mystery of iniquity we don't know. The Bible is read a certain way, but their knowledge and understanding is not that of the Holy Spirit. And through this vision revelation, and being called into class as Yahshua does for us, makes us know, right? How to interpret, how to discern, just as our aims are given, how to avoid being deceived, and shows us how even this one bowed down. And still today, you have one that thought they can just retire, but the bottom line is the mystery of iniquity has a mission. Yahweh's ordained him to serve a purpose, and it's going to be served. It's going to be served unto Yahweh's good pleasure. And here we read about the child. We read about the high priest and those royal people bowing down to him, listening to him in the synagogues, So I just wanted to, for me, it was just really important when I saw, how the families bowed down to someone they did not expect to, or, did not believe in the dream or the vision that was given to Joseph. With that, I hope something helps somebody. All praises to Yahshua the Messiah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Thank you. I had a little something to add about Genesis 43. I was looking at the fact that the way they treated Joseph when he was a youth and told them that he had a dream, they treated him with disrespect. And it says, let me see, Mark 6:4. This may be helpful to understand why you're treated so badly by your own. They said, we want to read it pick it up at 2 and read down to 4, please.
Mark 6:2. And when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach in the synagogue. And many hearing him were astonished, saying, from whence hath this man these things? And what wisdom is this which is given unto him, that even such mighty works are wrought by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Miriam, the brother of James and Joseph, and of Judah and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended at him. But Yahshua said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country and among his own kin and in his own house.
Okay, so it's picking up that Yahshua, he comes, he does amazing things, and his family or his neighborhood, it's like, hey, I know you. How are you getting so high on the hog? And the thing is that people are looking at you after the flesh, and it says that he did. From whence has this man these things, and what wisdom is this which is given unto him? They recognize that he has wisdom. They recognize that mighty things are happening by his hands, but they think they know him, and they're looking at the flesh. I know his father. He's a carpenter. And this is another way for you to know that Mary was not continually a virgin. He's the son of Mary, or Miriam, the brother of James. He had brothers, Joseph and Judas and Simon, and not his sisters. So he had brothers and sisters, and they were offended at him. And Yahshua said, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country and among his own kin and in his own house. They're looking at him and thinking they can't be anything to him because they think they know him, and they're looking after their physical eyes. And also in John 7:15. Okay. Okay, no, that's not.
7:15.
No, that's not it. I don't know why. It was the same thing. A man was that's not it. Okay, I'm sorry. That's not it.
7:5.
What is it?
Fifth
What?
verse.
5th verse? Okay.
7 and 5. but neither did his brother believe in him. Then Yahshua said unto them, my time is not yet come, but your time is always ready.
Okay, so it's to look at his own physical brethren, they're looking at him and there's nothing to him. You can pick it up with David, also a prophet without honor in his own home. He comes down, he sees Goliath and he says, what's the problem? Let's go get him. And his elder brother says, you know, you're just here to make a big name onto yourself. They're looking at his flesh. They're not seeing the spirit that's occupying his heart and mind. And that's what happens with you when you come back and tell your mother, your sister, your brother. I remember when I was in the class and my mother said to my brother, oh, Lenore's the dean of Brooklyn. And he goes, well, if she's the dean of Brooklyn, then I'm the Duke of New York. And my mother says, well, she is and you are. They're just looking at you after the flesh. They're not looking for wisdom until they never saw it there before. How can it be there now? So that's what we're encouraged to do, to look, whoever gets on the floor, whoever tells you anything in or out of class. Somebody can tell you something out of class. It's like, wow, that's true. I have to go look it up. That's the thing that I saw with the story today. Thank you.
Lenore, it was John 4 and 44. I'm sorry.
It was John what?
4 and 44.
Okay, man. Thank you very much. How did I make a mistake like that? Okay.
John 4:44, for Yahshua himself testified that a prophet hath no honor in his own country.
Okay, and sometimes you'll look at people and in their own, they have such wonderful gifts, but their own don't recognize the wonderful gifts that they have. All right, thank you. That's all I had to say.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. If you look at that Genesis 43, you see honesty too. I mean, he knew his brothers, but he had to ask them questions to see if they were going to tell the truth, and they told the truth. And then when they got their money back, they came down with double the money because they wanted to be fair. You understand? This is before there was any kind of law and thing. And but you could see how that he inquires about his father because he cares. Mm-hmm. So you see the attributes of that are positive with them, even though he was sold out. And it shows you how that no matter what, in the purpose of Yahweh, and we just read that that Yahshua was wondering why they didn't believe him in his own country because of all the things that he did. But that is the creator in a body, so he understands. But he's coming to, no matter what they did to him, he is Yahweh's love that is sent into the world to die, just like it says in, famously in John 3:16, that Yahweh so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth him should not perish but have everlasting life. So he's just like Joseph was sold out there, more or less preparing a place for them. And that's what Yahshua Messiah said, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go, I'll come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am may be also. So he's going to introduce himself to them, and Yahweh's creating all these situations. And when you get hungry, you're going to want to have something to eat. And down here, you should be hungry for the truth, and there's always something to eat.
Yay.
In this gospel.
That's a promise. Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing I just see, one last thing is that it says Joseph wept. And you can pick it up that Yahshua wept. And the reason I've heard that Yahshua wept is because they didn't understand that he was the resurrection, he was the life, And with Joseph, he's understand they don't realize how much he cares for his brethren. But you can also see that his brethren have changed. They learn from their situation. They're not setting up another brother. They feel sorry for what they did. Okay, so that's it.
Yeah, I could say one thing too. They're brothers. It was out of jealousy and vanity. And then it
Right.
was the love for their father that they once set up Benjamin again. So it's love overcomes vanity. That's it.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And you're right. I mean, when it says Yahshua wept, there's a lot of weeping in the Bible, and he's fulfilling all of it. Okay. Well, let's get into our transcript, Yahweh willing. And
I did have, if you don't mind, I did have a little movie that I wanted to show about the atom, because he talks a lot about the atom and the beginning of creation in this one. We had read this before, but we're going to read it again. So I wanted to know if you would mind if we saw that. Hello?
Were you reading the same transcript, or I don't know?
Well, we read it a while ago, but we are going to read it again. We did read it before, but the thing that I wanted to show is that I had a little film about atoms. I had like 3 little ones, and I wanted to just show them. Just because we took science how many years ago? 40. So it wouldn't hurt to learn some things. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, okay. I mean, I was looking at we could start the transcript, and then you could show some movies if it came down to when we get to that point, But
okay.
It's up to you.
No, I wanted to show them because I think you're gonna like this. You're gonna be crying.
You might even know that each atom is made up of even smaller particles called protons, neutrons, and electrons.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, wait a moment. Let me do this thing right. Okay, let me do this.
What's the name of the transcript? I have
It's
to leave.
that big book. We're going through them one by one. The yellow, what's it called? The yellow book. It's number 3. You know what I mean?
No,
I don't know what the name of it is, but it's number 3, and it's the yellow book, and it has all these different transcripts. You'll see it when we do it. I'm sorry.
We have it, Sybil.
Oh, you sent it to me. Okay, thank you.
You probably already know that everything is made up of little tiny things called atoms. You might even know that each atom is made up of even smaller particles called protons, neutrons, and electrons. And you've probably heard that atoms are small. But I'll bet you haven't ever thought about how small atoms really are. Well, the answer is that they are really, really, really small. So you ask, just how small are atoms? Well, to understand this, let's ask this question. How many atoms are in a grapefruit? Well, let's assume that the grapefruit is made up of only nitrogen atoms, which isn't at all true, but there are nitrogen atoms in a grapefruit. Well, to help you visualize this, let's blow up each of the atoms to the size of a blueberry. And then how big would the grapefruit have to be? It would have to be the same size of, well, actually, the Earth. That's crazy. You mean to say that if I filled the Earth with blueberries, I would have the same number of nitrogen atoms as a grapefruit? That's right. So how big's the atom? Well, it's really, 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 really small. And you know what? It gets even more crazy. Let's now look inside of each atom. That's the blueberry, right? What do you see there? In the center of the atom is something called the nucleus, which contains protons and neutrons. And on the outside, you'd see electrons. So how big is the nucleus? Well, if atoms are like blueberries in the Earth, how big would the nucleus be? You might remember the old pictures of the atom from your science class where you saw this tiny dot on the page with an arrow pointing to the nucleus. Well, those pictures, well, they're not drawn to scale, so they're kind of wrong. So how big is the nucleus? So if you popped open the blueberry and were searching for the nucleus, you know what? It would be invisible. It's too small to see. Okay, let's blow up the atom, the blueberry, to the size of a house. So imagine a ball that is as tall as a 2-story house. Let's look for the nucleus in the center of the atom. And you know what? It would just barely be visible. So to get our minds wrapped around how big the nucleus is, we need to blow up the blueberry up to the size of a football stadium. So imagine a ball the size of a football stadium, and right smack dab in the center of the atom, you would find the nucleus. And you could see it. and it would be the size of a small marble. And there's more. If I haven't blown your mind by now, let's consider the atom some more. It contains protons, neutrons, and electrons. The protons and neutrons live inside of the nucleus and contain almost all of the mass of the atom. Way on the edge are the electrons. So if an atom is like a ball the size of a football stadium with a nucleus in the center and the electrons on the edge, what is in between the nucleus and the electrons? Surprisingly, the answer is empty space. That's right, empty. Between the nucleus and the electrons, there are vast regions of empty space. Now, technically, there are some electromagnetic fields, but in terms of stuff, matter, it is empty. Remember, this vast region of empty space is inside the blueberry, which is inside the earth, which really are the atoms in the grapefruit. Okay, one more thing, if I can even get more bizarre. Since virtually all of the mass of an atom is in the nucleus, now there is some amount of mass in the electrons, but most of it is in the nucleus. How dense is the nucleus? Well, the answer is crazy. The density of a typical nucleus is 4 times 10 to the 17th kilogram per meter cubed. But that's hard to visualize. Okay, I'll put it in English units. 2.5 times 10 to the 16th pounds per cubic feet. Okay, that's still kind of hard to figure. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Make a box that is 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. And let's go and grab all of the nuclei from a typical car. Now, cars on average weigh 2 tons. How many cars' nuclei would you have to put into the box to have your 1 foot box have the same density of a nucleus? Is it 1 car? 2? How about 100? Nope, nope, and nope. The answer is much bigger. It is 6.2 billion. That is almost equal to the number of people in the earth. So if everyone on the earth owned their own car, and they don't, and we put all of those cars into your box, that would be about the density of a nucleus. So I'm saying that if you took every car in the world and put it in your 1 foot box, it would have the density of 1 nucleus. Okay, let's review. The atom is really, really, really small. Think atoms in a grapefruit, like blueberries in the earth. The nucleus is crazy small. Now look inside the blueberry and blow it up to the size of a football stadium, and now the nucleus is a marble in the middle. The atom is made up of vast regions of empty space. That's weird. The nucleus has a crazy high density. Think of putting all those cars in your 1 foot box. I think I'm tired.
Okay, wait a moment.
And some electrons. Thanks to Google for sponsoring a portion of this video, for supporting small businesses, and for helping people find jobs. More about all that at the end. Atomic orbitals have long been a source of frustration for me. On the one hand, you have simple cartoon diagrams that make them feel friendly, but which are so varied and vague they don't really convey much beyond the basic idea that atoms have a nucleus and some electrons. Some people try to take the cartoony diagrams and make them feel more random or quantum, which is an improvement, but they're still very much just cartoon stand-ins for the vague idea of atom. On the other hand, you have atomic orbitals depicted as fuzzy clouds or balloons or rainbow donuts, which are definitely more technically accurate or technically inspired, but none of which feel like they give me a sense of what's actually going on. Like, what does this blobby thing have to do with orbiting electrons? Is the electron inside it, or on the surface? Why do some of them have blobs and others donuts? And why are some of the donuts rainbow colored? I want to know what an atom looks like, and I want that picture to actually have something to do with the nitty-gritty reality of atoms, since they are indeed real things. You know, like how a diagram of the solar system is both a totally not-to-scale caricature, and yet also represents the very real idea that the planets all orbit the sun in roughly the same plane, and that some are farther out and some are closer in, and if it's animated, we get to see that the closer planets complete their orbits more often. It's a nice picture, and that's what I want for atoms. A good picture. There are a few things I'd like that picture to get across, some of them because they're important for the physics of atoms, and some of them because they're questions my brain wants answers to. Like, where is the electron? How fast is it going? How much energy does it have? How big is this picture relative to other pictures? Of course, the wave-particle nature of quantum mechanics means some of these ideas, like the electron's position, don't translate exactly from our everyday intuition to the atomic scale. But there is a way of thinking about wave-particle duality where you picture the wave function as a bunch of water, and the particle as a speck of dust in that water. The particle is mostly guided by where the water goes, and the water is guided by the equations that determine how water behaves depending on its circumstances. And if you apply the mathematics of that idea to atomic orbitals, and then render it in 3 dimensions, here's what you get. Isn't it beautiful? Here's another. And another. And another. In fact, I made a bunch of these, and they're all mesmerizing and beautiful, and isn't the ground state of the hydrogen atom just so cute? And aren't the excited states so majestic? There's so much structure and detail in them, I just love it. You can see patterns in the orbitals, and you can get a sense that they actually are orbitals. I mean, something is orbiting. Okay, so I do have to be clear. The dots don't each represent a separate electron. The whole collection represents the wave function of a single electron, and the individual dots represent all the places that electron could be. A higher density of dots means a higher probability of the electron being there. The bigger orbitals are the ones with higher energies, because electrons with more energy are more likely to be far away from the nucleus. The motion of the dots is showing the flow of the wave function, and does correspond to an extent with its actual angular momentum, though they're not electron trajectories. Unless you think Bohmian trajectories are real, in which case they really are electron trajectories. I'll let the philosophers of physics fight that one out. But the point is, these visuals are created by representing actual electron wave functions in a visual language that our brains can understand, that of objects and light and shadows and motion in 3D space. There's actually stuff orbiting, and they're pretty. I hope you like them as much as I do. Oh, one final thing. I 100% get that these are not easy to draw. So if you want a cartoon representation of an atom that's simple but more closely based in atomic physics, here's my proposal. It's based on the orbitals from the p block of the periodic table. One of them has the electron orbiting one way, one in the opposite way, and in the third one the electron is orbiting the same amount, but around some perpendicular direction, and we can't know which is why the dots aren't moving in the middle orbital, and why I've drawn a dotted line and question mark for the sideways circle. And if you want, you can add an electron to each orbital, or 2 electrons, one oriented spin up and one spin down. This is a Minute Physics approved cartoon representation of an atom. But really, the beautiful 3D ones are where my heart is. Thanks to Google for sponsoring this portion of the video. When Google reached out to sponsor Minute Physics, I immediately said yes, because I use
Have you ever looked carefully at the intro for this show? I mean really carefully? If you have, you might have noticed that there's a diagram of an atom with little electrons orbiting the nucleus. But here's the thing. Atoms don't actually look like that. Over the years, scientists have come up with different atomic models based on what we know about how they work. The atomic model that's in the SciShow intro was one of them, and it has a lot of history behind it. But the most accurate atomic models are a little more complicated, because atoms are complicated. By the start of the 20th century, scientists knew that atoms were made up of negatively charged electrons plus some sort of positive charge. The tricky part was figuring out how these charges fit together. The running theory was that the electrons were embedded in a positive sphere, which was called the plum pudding model because it looked like a traditional Christmas pudding. But that all changed around 1911, when a scientist named Ernest Rutherford, along with his team at Manchester University, published the results of the famous gold foil experiment. Rutherford and his colleagues fired alpha particles, which are positively charged, at thin gold foil. According to the plum pudding model, the alpha particles should have just passed straight through the foil, because atoms would be mostly empty space with some charges scattered around. And atoms are mostly empty space. So most of the alpha particles did pass straight through the foil. But to Rutherford's surprise, some alpha particles were deflected. By a lot. He concluded that an atom's positive charge was concentrated in a tiny central nucleus, and these nuclei were deflecting alpha particles that bounced off of them. He also predicted that the electrons were orbiting around the nucleus, kind of like how planets orbit the sun. That's why this model is sometimes called the planetary model. Rutherford was right about protons being in the middle with electrons around them, and you'll still see his model used today to explain the very basics of the atom. It's the one in the SciShow intro. But there was one major problem with the planetary model. It predicted that orbiting electrons would lose energy in the form of radiation, which would make them spiral inward and eventually crash into the nucleus. This implied that all atoms would eventually collapse. But we know that stable atoms do exist, so there had to be something missing. Just 2 years later, in 1913, Danish scientist Niels Bohr proposed an adjustment to the Rutherford model that solved this problem. Bohr's model predicted that electrons orbit at very specific energy levels, which he called orbits. The electrons could only orbit at precisely those levels, and so they couldn't spiral inwards. An electron could switch levels if it absorbed or released some energy, but only specific discrete levels were allowed, and electrons couldn't go below the lowest level. That explained why stable atoms didn't just collapse. Bohr's model quickly became the most popular model of an atom, and it's often used today to show the basic way that an atom is arranged. But it still wasn't totally right. One breakthrough was in 1932 when English physicist James Chadwick discovered that neutrons exist. Neutrons weren't electrically charged, and they helped explain why the nucleus was so heavy. Another breakthrough involved quantum mechanics, and the idea that electrons don't necessarily orbit the nucleus at all. In fact, electrons aren't even really in a specific place at any given time. Instead, they're kind of in lots of different places at once within a bigger area. Then, when you actually measure an electron, suddenly it's in one specific spot within that area. It's a weird concept that's very different from the way that we normally experience the world. But that's quantum mechanics for you. The area where you might find it if you tried to measure it is called the electron cloud. In diagrams, normally the cloud is drawn darker where there's a high probability of the electron being there when you measure it. With the most basic atoms, like hydrogen and helium, this cloud looks kind of like a big sphere. And it turns out that electrons have the highest probability of being in one of Bohr's orbits, which is why you can use Bohr's model to simplify things. But when you get into bigger and bigger atoms with more and more electrons, these clouds begin to interfere with each other and start to have weirder shapes. So the electron cloud model is the most up-to-date model of an atom, and it's used by scientists around the world. But that doesn't make the other models useless. Like, Bohr's model can be helpful if you need to focus on energy levels and radiation. But if you're studying chemical bonds, you might need the electron cloud model to know where the electrons are. And if you want a model that shows off the fundamentals and still looks pretty cool, you might want to go for the planetary model. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow, which was brought to you by our patrons on Patreon. If you want to help support this show, go to patreon.com/scishow, and don't forget to go to youtube.com/scishow and subscribe.
Never trust an atom, because they make up everything. It's funny because it's true! Not that atoms are untrustworthy, but that everything is made of atoms.
Okay, no, that's not it. I want... Okay, so can everybody see this? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, let me see.
I see it. So those are your, those, anyway.
I just like that you had a cloud. You know, the electron cloud.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, it's really nice that we have a simple pattern, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the proton would be like the most holy place, the neutrons like the holy place, and then the court roundabout, that's your electron going around. Kind of simple.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then like was shared to us earlier about whatever number of protons, that's really what the element is. Like the hydrogen's the first element, it has one proton. But then like Dr. Kinley shows, it has one electron, and the neutron's invisible to show that spirit law is invisible, kind of like he more or less explained it. And then the second element, helium, it has 2 hydrogen atoms, and I mean 2 hydrogen protons, and then 2 neutrons, 2 electrons. And that's what differentiates the atoms. So the whole thing is that the electron going around, that's like the court roundabout. Kind of make it simple. Okay. So
I just say something really quick, I promise. I found it very interesting when the first guy there was talking about the atom, that there was so much space in it.
Right.
And of course, scientists call it empty space. Well, they don't know what space is. And how really there is so much to spirit, that even down with a microscope and all the ways that they find things out scientifically, there's so much to spirit. It's not empty space. There's no such a thing. Spirit is everything and everywhere. And I just found it very interesting that they would call it empty space, because that if you go back and look through history, hemioglobulous glob of nothingness is what they called the great cloud of Yahweh. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say, that spirit is so much more real, and so takes up so much more, even that physical space, than we can possibly ever wrap our minds around, except that we do understand that he's all in all, and that for him to come down and show us these things in a simple, like Frank was talking about, simple threefold pattern that we can grasp and understand and have confidence in. It's just a wonderful teaching. So get on with the transcript. Thank you.
Hallelujah. Amazing.
Good morning. Dennis has put in the chat where you can obtain the transcript for today's reading. The name of the transcript is Verification of Pattern, Evidence and Proof by Dr. Kinley. We have previously propounded that the premise that Yahweh is the source and substance from which all things in the material realm of the universe originate. Now let us extend this thought thusly. The universe in its totality, including and embracing every created object or thing, visible and invisible, animate and inanimate, known and as yet unknown, must derive from and abide within this supreme all in all spirit embodiment. Therefore, Yahweh must be within himself the immaculate essence and substance, energy or life, which intelligently manifests itself through the inexorable and immutable laws of life and nature. You will recall the statement that Elohim, the original or archetypal pattern of the universe, was divided into 2 distinct counterparts. 1, the visible, 2, the invisible. You will recall also that the visible counterpart of Elohim, by and through which all manifestations of his existence, omnipotence, and omnipresence throughout the material universe are accomplished, were separated into 3 parts. 1, abstract, 2, intermediate, and 3, concrete. In the abstract part, Yahweh is pure spirit without form and is called the Father. In the intermediate part, Elohim takes on the incorporeal form or the transmuted anthropomorphic state, which called the Word. And in the third part, the concrete, which is direct physical manifestation, which is called the Holy Ghost. To further clarify these 3 parts, they can be likened in man to the spirit, which is the abstract part of man and cannot in any way be seen or measured or analyzed. The soul or intermediate state, which can, to a limited degree, be analyzed and understood. And the body or concrete part, which is physical, material, visible to the eye, solid to the touch. In the transfiguration, witnessed in the vision and revelation, the most holy place was the abstract or pure spirit part. The holy place was comparable to the intermediate or incorporeal state. The court around about, the intangible sanctuary, can be likened to the physical or concrete form. In future lessons, we will discuss Elohim, the Christ or Messiah, and Yahshua the Messiah, and show them in comparable three-part manner. There would be Yahweh as the pure spirit form, Elohim as the incorporeal form, and Yahshua the Messiah as the physical manifestation or physical form. Now, let us examine some of the evidence of the pattern throughout nature and science. The prevalence of planned, systematic, and inexorable order throughout nature could not have been haphazard nor left to chance. Else there would be times and circumstances where objects would not react or respond in precisely the identical way to the previous result under these same conditions or stimuli. This invariable repetition and constancy of the laws of nature and physical force operates throughout nature and science. They have been the same each time they were utilized and remain so from the beginning of cumulative scientific knowledge to the present, and remain so as human culture moves on into the future. Scientists call this planned order in nature physical laws. They have recognized and charted the laws, and by their application have developed innumerable scientific achievements. Consider the fantastic character of gravity, which holds people to the earth so that they will not step off into space and float on endlessness in the earth's atmosphere or in free space, which makes objects fall down, never up or sideways, makes planets circulate around the sun, and causes the moon to rotate around the earth. Or that by gravity alone, collisions of the earth, the sun, and the moon are prohibited. Must not this have been created by a superior, a supreme creator? Reflect about the function of the centrifugal force, which pulls objects away from the central point, counterbalanced by the centrifugal force, which draws bodies toward a central point. All of these gravitational forces are required to keep our Earth and its inhabitants properly stabilized as the Earth rotates around the sun, spins through the universe on its axis. In gravity, there is no coincidence or chance. We can measure the gravitational pull of any body or mass. We can determine at what rate of speed an object falls from a height above the Earth on the Earth's surface, and this speed will be without variation under identical controlled conditions. There are innumerable physical laws with which the reader will be familiar. Others can be investigated in a standard physics textbook. Newton's law, Pascal's law, Boyle's law, and Bernoulli's principle are some of the most significant of these forces in our daily lives. Think for a moment of the progress man has been able to make through Bernoulli's principle by its invariable, unchanging operation. Bernoulli's principle is based on the condition that when a fluid or gas is in a state of motion where the speed is great, the pressure will be small. This may seem rather insignificant upon superficial evaluation. However, a common application of this principle, familiar to everyone, is the ability of a baseball pitcher to throw a curveball. In this same principle is the foundation for man's ability to master the sailing of boats and the flight of airplanes. Or let us consider the consistency of sound. Sound is defined as a longitudinal wave composed of speed or velocity, wavelength, and frequency. Yet, by the accurate, unerring principles which apply in all cases, in all conditions, we have been able to create musical instruments. We have been able to learn about the wonders of radio, television, and many other great inventions and discoveries of our present age. Is this not more proof than anyone should require that our everyday existence is dependent on the infallibility, the never failing accuracy of these physical laws? These laws had to be created or organized, precise control, master force, or supernal nature exercising this unerring spirit law. You may think that in the plant, animal, and human realms, there is not such a clearly definable law. Yet in these areas of Yahweh's creation also, we have just as consistent laws in operation.
All of nature, as well as its inhabitants, is composed of what is commonly called the balance of nature. The first principle of plant, animal, and human survival is the law of adaptation. Plant animals, even humans, must find environmental surroundings with which they can cope, or failing to do so, cease to exist, to propagate and perpetuate their species. From the lowest order of plant life to the great order of man, there are in constant operation the process of adaptation, succession, multiplication, and control of the physical forces of nature. Whenever any condition of imbalance occurs, immediately all other living organisms, nature, are likewise thrown out of balance and reacts and respond accordingly. Some to go on and become advanced mutations, others to die out, others to change or to control the circumstance of their environmental condition. So great is the balance of nature. So delicately delineate that the absence of woodpeckers in a forest area could result in destruction and demolition of the entire forest. This catastrophic might result from the absence of woodpecker endeavoring some variety of beetle to freely destroy the trees. Then when the trees were dead, the birds which had made their homes in the tree branches would have to seek other quarters. Also, The roots of the trees would wither or relinquish their hold upon the soil, with erosion resulting. Without moisture, which is normally captured by the leaves of the living trees and brought down to the root and soil area through photosynthesis, the characters of the soil would degenerate and become inadequate to support its live occupants. Then the insect dwellers of the ground and all of the living organisms of the forest area would become extinct or have to migrate to other areas. Consider one of the most incredible instinctive accuracies in the world of nature, the sprawling of fish. Salmon will travel hundreds and hundreds of miles, blindly groping onward with no knowledge of why, to reach their particular ancestral spawning stream. There and there only will they give birth to new generations of salmon. Or consider the I can't say that.
Ornithological means birds.
Family, right? Which teaches the birds how to fly and sing, when and how and where to build suitable nests, to lay their eggs, to hatch and properly care for their offspring. Or consider their distinctive accuracy or seasonal flight, always seeking food and climate adaptation. Without the intelligence and capability that man possess, wherein maps and books might be read, where meteorological reports might be considered, where mathematical transportation might be utilized.
Mechanical.
Thank you. Mechanical transportation might be utilized. Can it be denied that there must be plain, consistent,
planned,
consistent, intelligent control? That only the infallible spirit law of Yahweh's omnipresence could prevent these confusions and errors from occurring throughout nature.
Omnipotence.
Okay, omnipotence. Can it be denied that there must be planned, consistent, intelligent control? The only infallible spirit law of Yahweh's omnipotence could prevent these confusions and errors from occurring throughout nature.
Mm-hmm.
In the same manner, inanimate objects of our universe fulfill consistent roles. Matter consists of minute microscopic particles called atoms. As you know, atom consists of 3 parts, comparable to the universe. 3-part plan of the universe: the electron, the proton, and the neutron. When atom combines into groups, they are called molecules, and these molecules assemble in various combinations. All the forms of matter known to science fall into a total of 92 types or categories, which we call elements. Think of this amazing infallibility. Whenever these invisible microscopic atoms combine, out of the million of possible combinations, they never fail to combine into only one of 92 ways. By the law of chance, they might combine into trillions of groups, but they do not. Not only that, but each time a group of atoms combined into a particular element, the element takes on identical characteristics to every other time the same element was formed. the specific weight or gravitational pull of the matter will always be the same. For example, if a mass of matter combines into iron or potassium or any one of the elements, the mass will always have the same identical characteristic per basic unit of combined components. These combinations of matter will act and react to the entire range of variant physical conditions without variation in precisely the exact manner, so that man has been able to discover and put to work the physical laws or the law of nature. Thus, man made in the image of Yahweh has been able to control the elements in the property of Yahweh's creation, the physical universe. When one contemplates any of the wondrous manifestations of the three-part supernal nature in the realm of the physical universe, skepticism cannot remain. Surely, if chance or coincidence were the guiding factor in the laws of nature, somewhere, sometime, a spring or a summer or a fall would fail to appear or appear in the wrong order of season. The moon would surely become involved with the earth or the sun as they move through the stellar voids. Or sometimes, somewhere, a bird would hatch something other than a bird. Or somewhere, the perfection of balance in nature would not be finely drawn. Surely, nobody can accept all of these immutable, inexorable, externally consistent forces as unexplained,
Unplanned.
uncontrolled. I don't know why I keep saying that. Unplanned, uncontrolled, created by the happenstance rather than a supreme intelligent intellect or creator. In the next lesson, it will be shown that man was truly made in the image of Yahweh, and that every component part of the physical structure of man has meaning, a significance, a purpose. It will be shown that the number of bones in
Thanks
the
to
human
Google.
anatomy.
What do you want to
I'm
search
sorry.
for?
It will be shown that the number of bones in the human anatomy, the very way they are strung together, the various organs of the body, all repeat and verify and prove beyond doubt that man can clearly see and come to know and understand Yahweh and his eternal purpose throughout every concrete manifestation in the physical universe, even in man's body itself. Does it not give you a spiritual thrill to realize that the events of the world were revealed by Yahweh in the very structure and character of your own physical body? Even organs that medical science cannot clearly interpret or understand can be clearly explained and understood through knowledge and awareness of the correlation of the body to the eternal Yahweh. It is through esoteric knowledge and understanding that you can acquire the keys to Yahweh's kingdom and the ability to utilize these keys to achieve spiritual elevation and acceleration through oneness and communion with Yahweh and his universal truth. Praise Yahshua.
Yeah, exaltation. Yeah.
Exaltation. Hoo-wee.
That's good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Indeed. Yeah, it is.
And it's amazing that they take Yahweh's stuff, the immutable laws that have been put in it, and when they discover it, they put their name on it, and don't give the credence or the okay.
I'm sorry, that's me. I'm at the doctor's office. I
Can you
apologize.
turn it? Can you turn? Okay.
Mute.
Yeah, mute yourself.
No, and don't give the respect that we're living in some kind of a organized realm. You know, there's things. I mean, like if you moved into a place and it had food and water and everything, oh, look how great I am. No, this thing has been planned before you even came on the scene. The same way when a child comes forth, the breasts are filled with milk. Yahweh set it up that the offspring is going to be taken care of. It's the right temperature, and it changes as the child develops to exactly what he needs, and even gives the antibodies to help him fight disease right there. He didn't do anything. It's just the way Yahweh made the creation. So I thought this was good in order to show that point.
Yeah, it takes a vision and revelation.
Yep.
Bonnie has her hand up or something.
I do. I would just like to say something about this particular transcript. I read transcripts almost every day, and it's been a lifesaver for me in more ways than one. But these particular old transcripts that were in the Ohio Blue Book, I've read so much because they were the only ones that I had for a long time. But I want to say something. If we could get, and I'm not sure exactly where it is, but where he's talking about the creation. Let me see if I can remember what it says. Where he's talking about adaptation. Because there's something in there that is so important. And when it hit me, it was okay. I want to just read some of this.
Do you see it?
Yes, thank you. I've got a black mark on it, but yep, go ahead. Okay, I'm going to read some of this. All of nature, as well as its inhabitants, is composed of what is commonly called balance of nature. The first principle of, now he's explaining what this is. The first principle of plant, animal, and human survival is the law of adaptation. Plants, animals, even humans must find environmental surroundings with which they can cope. Okay, that's what I want to talk about. And we can go on, I'll read the rest of it when I'm done, or just that paragraph. Plants, animals, even humans must find environmental surroundings with which they can cope. Now, in order for us to cope, and that's even spiritually so, and this is what I could see about it one time, because one of the things Dr. Kinley had said, if you ever want to be saved, and I'm not sure where this is, but this is one of his quotes, if you ever want to be saved, you must get to a class where the truth is taught. Well, I had come out of a class that had gone over to the progressive doctrine, so-called, and the truth was not being taught, and it was very hard on many in there. A lot of the people that left there are now in the art port class, and a lot of people are nowhere. But anyway, it goes along with, you must be in a place where you can cope. And see, coping is not just surviving and living. You must be armed up with the things that can cause you to fight the mystery of iniquity off. You must have on that of Yahweh, and we must be able to cope with daily things that come up in our lives and all the things that beset us physically, but more than that, spiritually so. You must be in a place, in the environment of the true teaching of Yahshua the Messiah. We must be inundated in the truth where we go. And if you know, we need to, we've been talking about prayer a lot in this, you know, your sincere prayer should be that you would be
So high, in
sincere and
fact, that they
honest,
usually
and
consist
that
of
you
ice crystals
would,
instead of
when
water
things are,
droplets. The high-speed winds of the upper atmosphere blow cirrus
I'm sorry.
clouds
Okay, I'm
faster than
sorry.
most
I
other
don't know.
clouds, and a lot of the time they'll precede storms to come.
Okay, I don't know why that went on. Okay. I wanted to show, I just wanted to show the definition of cope.
oh, thank you. That would be nice. Yeah. Anyway, we must be in a place in the environment where we are able to hear the truth taught and weigh it and have the opportunity to ask questions, to weigh everything that's taught. You know, this is not just a gospel to talk about. We just don't talk about it. Oh, it's a great gospel. It's wonderful. You know, it is. But you know what? Yahshua the Messiah gave us the ministry to show what he is and how he is. And we must get to a place, I don't care if it's a Zoom class or wherever you are, you must be in a place where you are able to look at the things that he has taught us. You must be in an environment where you are able to cope. Now, I didn't say that, Dr. Kinley did. And spiritually so, you know, he taught things, he taught physical examples, but he was always speaking spiritual principles, always. That's what he was doing. And when he told us that they had to be in a place where you could cope, you must be in a place where you can live in that place and experience the Holy Spirit teaching you. And you can't do that if the truth is not taught, folks. You must be in a place where the truth is taught. And we have all the tools to check everybody, me and everybody else. All right. So to deal with and attempt to overcome problems and difficulties, often used with learning to cope with the demands of a schedule. Okay, that's great. To meet in contact too, but to deal with and attempt to overcome problems and difficulties. We must be in a place where we're able to do that. We're told to stand in this teaching. In order to stand, you must have something to stand in. We must recognize that we're standing in Yahshua the Messiah, in this great teaching, in this gospel, in the light of Yahshua, you know, and all the things that we have been given. And I can just remember that when I read it. Could we go back to the transcript for just a minute where you were? Thank you, Lenore. You do great.
Sometimes. Why is this like this? Ugh. Okay, wait.
You do the best.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need help. Why did this disappear?
Page 5.
Page 5.
Okay, it's this page 5. Yeah, okay. It had to do with adaptation. Where is that?
Right there.
All right, so
second paragraph.
Plants, animals, even humans must find environmental surroundings with they can cope, or failing to do so, cease to exist, to propagate and to perpetuate their species. From the lowest order of plant life to the great order of man, there are in constant operation the processes of adaptation, succession, that's multiplication, and control of the physical forces of nature. So we have to be in a place spiritually so where we can cope. And that was what I could see out of this one when I read it one time, and I'm like, wow. And these transcripts are just so priceless. It's just out of this world to see how he explains things. Well, it is out of this world, because this world is not our world. We have been brought in through this great teaching into Yahshua's world, and hallelujah for that. All praises to Yahshua. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's too bad.
May I interject the scripture, Ephesians 6 and 10?
Okay.
Finally, my brethren, Be strong in Yahweh and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Elohim, that ye may be able to stand the wiles of the adversary. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the world rulers of this darkness, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of Elohim, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having overcome, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the glad tidings of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yahweh.
Thank you.
I just want to go over the definition again. It says cope, to contend or strive, especially on even terms or with success, coping with child rearing and a full-time job. To contend with difficulties and act to overcome them. Facing unprecedented problems, the Federal Reserve of the 1930s couldn't cope. So it's talking about success, it's talking about overcoming, and the etymology means to fight. And when you leave one place and go to another, I remember when Bonnie was getting ready to leave, an elder told her, don't leave class. And it's like, I'm not leaving class. The class has left me. Mm-hmm. So she was standing up for something. It's just like, this is not correct. I want to go to someplace where I can have something which is correct. And now people are saying you don't have to do anything. That the aims tell you, yeah, you got a lot of things to do. And if you look, it talks about predestination to be conformed to the image of his son. Can you really look at the attributes of Yahshua and put them on and say they're yours? You've got thinking to do, you got reading to do, you got studying to do, you got conversations to be held. Nobody can look at themselves and say, I'm the fullness of the Godhead bodily. If you're honest, and we're honest-hearted truth seekers. And it says to go to the mark of the high calling. So, it's like, you don't want to phone it in. It's you're earnestly contending. Mm-hmm. That's all I have to say.
Well, are we going back over the things, or are we just?
Yeah, we could do that.
Just because, he says a whole lot.
That's for sure.
And
Yeah.
I tell you, when you were talking about when we were having the atoms earlier, and when you think about the expanse of the universe, you see how magnificent, great, and you can't even how great Yahweh is. It says in Acts 17:28, it's within Yahweh that we live, move, and have our being. And when it talks about spirit being the source and substance where everything is made of, stars are light years away. Do you know how far light years are?
Far.
And so yeah. And when it talked about the electron was within the space, the atom is so small, you can't, like he shows, it's ultra microscopical. You have to have special instruments, electron microscopes and stuff like that to see it. And then some things are still invisible. And then they're talking about how much space there is in between it. But where you read that, or you got the atom being a proton, neutron, electron, like we said earlier about the pattern. And that's the smallest part. And then you look to the expanse of the universe, and that's threefold. And that's what he kind of goes into there, and just shows you how great he is. And worthy to be praised, as was said earlier. And how that he has everything going by a spirit law, which, like you say, man puts their name on it because they observed it and found out that it's going by a law, but they don't see that the law is Yahweh Elohim. Okay. Or is Yahweh himself. So we maybe.
It says the distance that light travels in the vacuum in 1 year, approximately 9.46 trillion kilometers, or 5.88 trillion miles. So it's far.
Yeah, because light travels, and we go into the Bible and show it. I think it's Numbers 2 and 9. When you do when they counted the tribe of Judah. Since Judah is the fourth son of Israel, and Yahshua came in on the fourth day, and Yahshua is the son of Yahweh, light travels 100. And when we went to school, they'd say light travels approximately 186,000 miles per second.
Right.
And so if that's a second, to get a year, you have to multiply by 60. Then multiply by, and that just gives you a minute. Then you multiply by 60,
Right.
Yeah, you know how it goes.
Yeah, take out your pen and pencil.
60 minutes an hour, so you multiply by 60 to get an hour, then multiply by 24 to get a day, then multiply by 360 something to get a year. That's why they get that big number there.
Yeah. Approximately.
Okay, so we said approximately, but in the Bible, it shows you all that were numbered in the camp of Judah were 100,000 and 4 score. Score is 20, so 4 times 20, that's 80. 180,000 and 6,400 throughout their army. So that's 186,400. So where it's the scientists told us approximately, you got in your Bible what it was, what it is with the number of Judah.
Wow.
And Judah means praise. So we praise him, don't we?
Yes.
Because of the things that he's taught us and shown us. And that's what the theme with what Dr. Kinley was going into. He says, can you not see that this must have been planned and is beautifully carried out?
Oh, I know.
Say it the way he said. Yeah, every little bit, from and then how he talked about the atoms and how they come together as molecules and so on, and how their atomic weight is always the same. It's showing you how consistent and perfect Yahweh Elohim is. And we're coming down to school and learn about him. But before, we didn't know any of these things. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a blessing to be in the school.
Yeah.
Let's read, let's get as far as we can go, and then we'll probably have to pick up tomorrow,
So right from the beginning?
Yeah.
Yay.
We have previously propounded the premise that Yahweh is the source and substance from which all things in the material realm of the universe originated.
Okay, so you also always should read the name of the transcript, because you never know when people come in. These are the 58, 59 lectures of Dr. Kinley when he went out to California. So it's the verification of pattern, evidence, and proof. Okay. And as she just read, we have previously propounded the premise that Yahweh is the source and substance from which all things in the material realm of the universe originate. And when you think about all the stuff when you think about this earth and all the things we see on earth, that's nothing compared to all the planets, the sun, all the stars. That's a lot of substance, isn't it?
Right.
And I think in the 58th lecture, he said, Yahweh is spirit, and spirit is the universal source and substance from which everything emanates therefrom and abides with therein. That means it comes from spirit and it abides in spirit. And did you ever hear anybody explain spirit like that?
No.
No.
That spirit's the universal substance from which everything emanates. That means comes from and yet abides within. Wow.
Yeah.
Like that. Okay. So he's the source and substance.
Right.
He's the limits and bounds. He's all those attributes that we talk about, you know, that you break down. So, which all things in the material realm of this universe originate. Now, so when somebody says it don't matter what you call it, what are you going to call all the source and substance? What are you going to call all the intelligence there is? The best thing to do is just call him by what he said his name is.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
We have previously propounded that the premise that Yahweh is the source and substance from which all things in the material realm of the universe originate. Now let us extend this thought thusly. The universe in its totality, including and embracing every created object or thing, visible and invisible, animate and inanimate, known and as yet unknown, must derive from and abide within this supreme all in all spirit embodiment.
Now, who talks like that? Somebody had a vision and revelation and the Holy Spirit. And see how, and before you come into this class, you ever hear any preacher talk like that?
No. God
Never.
is spirit. Spirit is God. God is spirit.
Thanks, but no thanks.
So when and did you? We never had nobody say he was I either, did we?
No.
That he willed to be what he willed to be. So he willed to be everything that exists. And as it says in the Elohim book, he's a Yahweh Elohim is a universal spirit pattern with an immutable spirit law embodied therein. And so everything he made is spirit materialized, and then he's the spirit law that's operating it in its perfection. And that's how greatly he is to be praised, you know? So everything must abide in that supreme, all in all spirit embodiment. Beautiful. Read on.
Therefore, Yahweh must be within himself the immaculate essence and substance, energy or life, which intelligently manifests itself through the inexorable and immutable laws of life and nature.
And what was inexorable again? I know immutable means changes, huh?
It says not to be persuaded or moved by extreme, inflexible, relentless.
Let me look it up.
What's the
Exorable means responsive to entreaty, earnest petition.
There's got to be a simple. Well, what's a synonym?
Hold on, gotta get my book back.
Okay, here it is. Impossible to stop, alter, or resist. Inevitable. An inexorable fate, an inexorable law of nature. Not capable of being persuaded by entreaty, relentless. So when you jump off the building, you can't say, hey, I don't believe in gravity.
That's right. You can say
You're going down
all the way down, but you're going down. So it says impossible to stop. Yeah, alter or resist, inevitable. That means you can't change. Yeah.
Okay, wait on. Let me.
That means it moves on.
Okay, but we stopped that.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, that was exorable. You can stop it. But Yahweh's inexorable. That means he's impossible to stop. You can't alter what he made and did. And you shouldn't resist it. Okay? That's so, I mean, the Holy Spirit definitely showed him. And he could express it beautifully, right?
The etymology means X to argue. It's like you can't argue against him. People think that when they see the creator, they're going to be able to check, to straighten him out. It's like, no. I remember Dr. Kinley said that when you face Yahweh, you can't say anything because he was there. You know what I'm saying? You know how we have in our mind, we look at somebody and say, oh, they're stupid. But we can smile in their face. He heard you say he was stupid. That little thing that you got going on in your mind, he hears all of that.
That's right.
So you can't front on him. You're naked in front of him.
That's right.
And so when you think about how small we are, I mean, that's why David said, "Who is man? And why are you mindful of him?"
Right.
And we're the creature, and we're like, I don't believe that. In other words, you don't believe what the creator says because you're so big and bad, but you don't realize how small you are. When we're talking about the atom, when you think about think about that. Do it this way. The solar system is the sun and all the planets. If you just take the size of it, the sun is 99.9% of all of everything. That means 1/10 of a percent is the 9 planets. And then the Earth is not even the biggest one.
Right.
So when you start talking about how small the Earth is compared to the solar system, then somewhere there's a country or a continent. Then there's a country. Then there's a state or a province. Then there's the city. Then there's you.
Yeah. Then there's your block and your house and your little room.
Yeah, and you are so small. You're like a speck of sand. Like a speck of sand to us. One speck of sand ain't very big. We just smack that off our pants.
Sandwich.
Just a piece of sand is, but Yahweh, he's in us, giving us life, breath, and all things, and we've been made in his image after his likeness. So for us to go against him, that's what a lake's for, and it's going to be inhabited by a lot of souls. And that's why you be careful and make sure that what you're saying and knowing is the truth, because it's a serious thing. So we have salvation through Yahshua.
We used to say all that, go down, down, down. And then they say, so where are you and where are your problems? When you see the extent of the universe.
Yes, I guess we'll continue with this tomorrow. But
this was beautiful.
Big time study. Yeah.
Beautiful class today.
Yeah, and I want to know what Boyle's law is.
We had up to 53 attendees today in a beautiful class. Praise Yahshua the Messiah.
Praise Yahshua.
This brings an end to this session of International Honest-Hearted Truth Seekers of Yahshua the Messiah. We'd like to thank the speakers and visiting brethren and participants for joining us. We hope that you will come back and study with us again and that you were edified. We hold classes Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. in London, and 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. in Malaysia. We will now have the doxology taken from the last 2 verses of the book of Jude. Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. To the only wise Elohim, our Savior, through Yahshua the Messiah, our sovereign, belong glory and majesty, dominion and power, both before all time and now and ever. Let us all say hallelujah.
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 Praise
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Praise Yahshua.
Hallelujah.
Praise
Yes.
Joshua.
What is that?
Class.
Hallelujah.
Okay. Take care of yourself, Alan.
You too, Bunny.
Thank you very much. You too. Take care of yourself.
I'm hearing you, Alan.
Yeah, me too.
I hear you.
Yep. Hallelujah.
Okay, 10
Praise
a.m.
God.
to
Praise
12 in Jamaica. 10 a.m. to 12 in Jamaica.
Oh, 10 to 12? Okay, that's good. Oh, it's the same time. All right. Oh, yeah, and the class in Jamaica is going to be from 3 to 5 now, Eastern time. On Sundays. Sundays, 3 to 5.
Yeah, they're on the same time now. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, stop.